clear that this is a cash grab. That is why they anticipate $1 billion coming in. And quite frankly, this was implemented without a full and proper environmental impact statement as required by federal law, which is why we are in court fighting it. Sadly, the judge did not issue an injunction to stop it before it took effect. However, we still will have our day in court, and we intend to make that argument that this was rubber stamped by the Biden administration without that study as required by the National Environmental Policy Act. This is a cash grab that will cost people thousands of dollars to commute. What about the firefighters and the cops and the nurses, the restaurant workers who have to go to work at odd hours? And they don't feel comfortable right now riding the subway because Janno Lieber and the governor and the mayor have failed at making it safe. If you look at the stats, 55% increase in felony assaults on our transit system since 2019, right before the bail law took effect. Same thing with murders. They have tripled on the subway system in the past few years. And one every two weeks, there's one person is shoved in front of the subway, and that is tragic. And so if they want people to ride the subway, they need to make it safe. And those who I represent in Staten Island, Southern Brooklyn, don't have the transit options, and they will not get the transit options because of this money. They are always forgotten. And so Janno Lieber should come to Staten Island and explain how he's going to improve their quality of life with this program, because right now, many of my constituents are dependent upon their cars, and they don't feel that they're going to get anything but traffic and pollution shifting to our district.
Well, you mentioned him making a visit to Staten Island. You also mentioned yesterday on our special here on Eyewitness News that you want Janno Lieber to go to Washington as well. You mentioned federal audits, things of that nature, seeing where the money goes from congestion pricing, how it's being used. How would that actually look, a federal audit, and is that something you still want to push for?
Yeah, look, if they're going to do this and take more money from my constituents and not even offer a credit for the toll that they already pay in the Verrazano Bridge to connect to the rest of the city, he should come to Washington, explain to Congress before he receives another federal dollar how he intends to use this money. And he should answer our questions, because we want transparency as to what is happening to the billions of dollars that you've already received. And how come that isn't sufficient? Look, the MTA is notorious for mismanaged projects that are over schedule, that are over budget, some by billions of dollars in a decade in terms of planning. And so we don't trust that this MTA is going to actually fix the transit system. We think that this is just going to be more money going into the black hole. And so I think that there's a couple of options for us as well with our legal battle. And then I'm hopeful, as President Trump has indicated, that he wants to stop this and that he will be able to halt the program and order an environmental impact study as required by law. The fact that the Biden administration rubber stamped this project with and issued what's called a finding of no significant impact is such nonsense. There have been more projects of less significance, of less impact, that have had to go through the environmental process and do the studies. And what we know from the tiny study that was done is that it shifts traffic to working class communities like the one I represent, the ones that are outside of the zone and out in the outer boroughs. Those are the people who are going to be most impacted by this. And they've done nothing to tell us how they're going to alleviate that.
But how does that look? How does Trump come in? Is it, hey, let's pause the plan so we can do more environmental studies? Or is it, hey, we will stop federal funding for the MTA? How does it actually look?
Well, I'm speaking with the president about those legal options. I think that the best thing to do would be to halt the program and require that study be done. I think that he has the ability to do that, but we're still looking at the legal options that we have. Look, I'm not for stripping federal funds from my city's mass transit system, but if they are going to continue to nickel and dime my constituents with this congestion tax, they're going to have to come to Congress and explain why they deserve billions more in federal dollars. And it's as simple as that. They need to make the case, and they need to answer our questions, because thus far they have shown no transparency, and there's been zero accountability by this governor and by Janno Lieber to run an efficient and effective transit system with the money they've already received.
Congresswoman, I want to go back to subway safety. It's something that's top of mind for me because I'm one of those people that you mentioned that goes to work at off times, and I will be relying more on the mass transit system. I'm wondering what your specific request of the governor and of the MTA for implementation of safety measures. What ideas do you have? What things do you want to see to improve the safety?
Well, first of all, the governor should reinstate the close to 1,000 beds, psychiatric beds, that were eliminated by her predecessor, Andrew Cuomo. That would go a long way in making sure that people are actually receiving the care that they need for mental health instead of being put on the streets and living in the transit system. The second thing is we need more police officers. We are down 7,000 or 8,000 cops from where we were on September 11th, 2001. With the crime that has spiked in our transit system, with the threats that our city faces in a post-9/11 world, with the criminal gangs and cartels that have taken over our streets, we need more cops, period. We have not had this few cops since 1990. That's how dire the situation is. And Mayor Adams, who was a transit cap, knows very well what needs to be done to make the subway safe, and I don't see him doing it. And the first thing would be to add more cops onto our subway system. The last thing is, of course, the bail law. You have people committing crimes over and over again. There was just a guy who was previously arrested over 80 times, and he's still on the street. Why? Because of the radical bail law that Kathy Hochul and the legislature put in place that releases people over and over onto our streets. So those are three good solutions right there. And the other thing is to enforce that you actually have to pay to get on the subway. If you do that, a lot of the riffraff won't be hanging around the subway causing trouble.
Well, we certainly hope to see